In this video, I'm going to share 5 favorite streets in West Cambridge. Stay tuned. So West Cambridge is perhaps the most famous neighborhood in Cambridge. It's bound by the Charles River, by Fresh Pond, Concord Avenue, and Harvard Square, if you will, which some think of as part of West Cambridge. It's where the majority of the 02138 zip code is found. And when many people think of Cambridge, if they're not thinking of Harvard and MIT, but thinking of the neighborhoods of Cambridge, West Cambridge is often the most famous. And in this video, I want to share 5 favorite streets of mine in West Cambridge. Number 5 on the list is Brattle Street. Brattle Street starts in Harvard Square, and it may just be the most famous street in all of Cambridge. It's known for its many mansions, and it was once upon a time, prior to the American Revolution, known as Tory Row, home to many of the loyalists who supported the crown and who built these significant homes along Brattle Street. It's a delightful street to walk down. And what's interesting about this street, which does have perhaps the largest collection of large homes in the entire city, is here you have all these wonderful big homes, many of which have some substantial front yards. And yet Brattle Street itself is a street with a divided yellow line and traffic of all sorts, not just cars, but trucks and delivery vehicles. So, there is this juxtaposition of the substantial private homes and the democratic impulse that is the street itself that brings everyone and anyone through and down Brattle Street. So it's a great street. And the Longfellow House, which is owned by the Park Service, is located on Brattle Street. It's a museum and well worth a visit, even if you're just going to walk the grounds. And I've had the great good fortune as a real estate agent to sell several of these substantial homes over the years. But again, anyone and everyone can enjoy driving down or walking down Brattle Street. It's just such a great Cambridge street and not to be missed as you seek to experience West Cambridge. Off Brattle Street are a number of side streets, and one of them is Lexington Avenue. I lived on Lexington Avenue for a number of years in the late 90s, and it's an interesting street. It starts at Brattle Street and crosses over Huron Avenue before petering out at Fresh Pond Parkway and Fresh Pond. But in the block that I lived on between Brattle and Huron Avenue, there's actually a firehouse. And it's sort of fun that on this side street off Brattle Street, there's a Cambridge firehouse. It just houses a truck or two. And they were always very good about not turning their siren on until they got to the end of the block and needed to alert people that they were coming. And I thought it was fun when I lived on the street to have the fire station as a near neighbor. The collection of homes on Lexington Avenue is a mix of single families and condominium associations and some apartment buildings, including the one that I lived in. So it has a nice mix of architectural styles that define it as a block. It makes the number 4 spot on my list of 5 favorite streets. Number 3 on my list is Memorial Drive, and it runs along the Charles River, and it's defined by some very substantial trees that line Memorial Drive between JFK Park, where JFK Street meets Memorial Drive, and the bend in the road that takes you to Fresh Pond Parkway, where the BB&N School is found. And in season, Memorial Drive in this stretch is closed to traffic on the weekends. Once upon a time, it was just Sundays. Now they're experimenting with closing it to car traffic on Saturday and Sunday. And so that makes for almost like a park-like experience on the weekends in season when the weather's nice. And wow, it's just such a great street, drive, Memorial Drive. And even if it's a business day and you're driving down the road, Inevitably there's a boat or two on the river, as many of the crews are rowing, and Harvard has boathouses off Memorial Drive, and then there's the Riverside Boat Club as well. So it's just full of life on the water, and it's a very dramatic stretch of road with these beautiful brick buildings that line it, and in addition, several additional buildings with views out onto the river that actually are positioned more on Mount Auburn, looking over Memorial Drive. I was just yesterday at 221 Mount Auburn with a view onto Memorial Drive and the Charles River, and it was just breathtaking. It'll never get old to have that view and to be near the water. And Memorial Drive, for all these reasons, makes my list as a top street in West Cambridge. Number 2 on my list is Foster Street, which starts at Lowell Street and crosses over Spark Street and ends at Willard. And it's positioned between Brattle Street on one end and Mount Auburn on the other. And it's really a wonderful street because it's tucked in, and the scale of homes on Foster Street is not as large, say, as the scale of homes found on Brattle. So the scale of dwellings and the sense of privacy is really special. Foster Street's a great street. And again, it's sort of just tucked in. When you get to Willard Street, you're at the side of the Cambridge Skating Club, which becomes a tennis club in the spring and summer. And it's just what I think a lot of people might imagine when they think of a sort of tucked away street in West Cambridge. I love Foster Street. And then first on my list is Fairweather Street. It starts at Walden Street and crosses over Concord Avenue and then over Huron Avenue at Huron Village and ends at Brattle Street. So Fairweather Street, if you will, crosses essentially over West Cambridge. And the homes, as you move from Walden Street on one end to Brattle on the other, become, generally speaking, larger and more substantial as you get closer to Brattle Street and the Brattle Street neighborhood. But it's a great street from start to finish. And I recently sold a home on Fairweather, and for that reason spent a little more time on the block. And I was appreciating, just how Fairweather runs and the homes found on it. Just such a super West Cambridge street, and a longer one that does straddle a big portion of the neighborhood. And it does give you, by traveling it by foot or by car, a good overall sense of the West Cambridge neighborhood. As a top residential real estate agent, I'm in West Cambridge each and every day, and I welcome the opportunity to share with you more about the neighborhood as you give thought to buying the right home or selling for the best price in West Cambridge or another neighborhood of Cambridge or neighboring Somerville. Reach out at any time by text, telephone, or email, and I welcome the opportunity to connect with you by one of those means or in person, and to be of service to you as you consider all things to do with real estate in Cambridge and neighboring Somerville. Again, my name is Charles Cherney, and I welcome the opportunity to connect, to give you more information about your home, the market, and the community. Take care.